Sing you songs of the old canal days many long years ago. Not only that, I'm going to tell you stories of the old canal days, old canal days, old canal days. Tell you stories of the old canal days many long years ago. Many long years ago, many long years ago, and I'm going to tell you stories of the old canal days many long years ago. Well, tonight I want to transport you back in time, and we're going to talk about transportation. We're going to go back, far back. You want to know how far back? I'll tell you how far back. Long before the cars and highways, trucks and buses, even the railroads, long before even the railroads, many long years ago. Many long years ago, many long years ago, and I'm going to sing you songs of the old canal days many long years ago. So, way back in time, the country was covered with thick forests, and the only way to travel was by buffalo path or Indian trail, or by flatboats up and down the creeks and the streams and the rivers. The problem was the rivers didn't always go in a straight line the way you wanted them to go, and they had rapids and waterfalls that made travel dangerous. Well, as commerce grew, folks began looking for ways to get their farm goods and mineral resources to market. The problem with, I already said that. They would use Conestoga wagons, but Conestoga wagons couldn't pull as much as a canal boat could, and they were going through the woods, and every summer the woods grew back up, and they had to cut it down again, you see? So folks began thinking about making their own man-made rivers, and that's what you call a canal. A canal is essentially a strip of straight, narrow, flat ponds built step-like all the way across the state that a boat can go on, over, and over, you see. The Union Canal, which is here in Pennsylvania too, was the first canal route to be surveyed in America. It was first thought up by William Penn in 1690. And then came the Erie Canal, the first great successful canal, which linked Lake Erie in the west to the Hudson River in the east. And all the trade that used to flow down the Allegheny River to Pittsburgh or down the Susquehanna to Baltimore started flowing east to New York City. And Erie Canal made New York City a great city. And so other people said, we should build canals too. And they did, all the way across the state of Pennsylvania, all the way from Georgetown to Cumberland, Maryland, all up and down New Jersey. And here is a map. Hey, where'd everybody go? Oh, there you are. That joke works better with kids. This is a map of all the canals in Pennsylvania back in 1820s, 30s, and 40s. You could start in Philadelphia, go up the Schuylkill navigation system. You heard about that?
Yes.
Yeah. It passed right through Leesport, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Get on the Union Canal, take it over, go up the Susquehanna to Clark's Ferry, cross all the way over to Pittsburgh. It would take you a long time, but you could do it. So, people started deciding they were going to build canals. And so I'm going to sing about that. Sing you stories of the old canal days many long years ago. There you go. If you're wondering when to applaud, this will be the time. Well, before the canals could run, they had to be built, and it would take thousands of men to do it. Now, over level terrain in an uninhabited region, that ain't so bad. You just hire 10,000 men, give them shovels, they start digging, we'll tell you where to stop. But the problem was, there were things in the way, like hills. When faced with a hill, they had three choices: go around the hill, go up over the hill, or go through the hill by cutting or tunneling. And you see, 90-foot canal boats don't go up and down hills very well, so they had to take care of that, you see. Then, too, the general slope of the land often tends to be uphill from the ocean, which you don't notice until you're trying to dig a canal. In which case it's like, wait a minute, this is all uphill. Well, then sometimes there were roads that went this way when the canal wanted to go this way, so they had to build bridges for the buggies to go over. Sometimes there were little streams that went this way when the canal was going that way. In that case, they had to build culverts underneath the canal to let the stream go through. And then sometimes there were big river valleys that went this way when the canal was going that way, in which case they had to build what's called an aqueduct. Here's a picture of it. Now you wish you'd sat closer, don't you? See? If you could see these pictures. An aqueduct is pretty much a great big stone bridge that goes over filled with canal water that goes crossways over a river that's filled with water that ain't canal water. Did you understand what I said? We'll explain it to them, will you? Because I'm not sure they picked that up. Yeah. Well, so when it came to a hill, they could go around, they could go up over, or they built what were called locks. Now, y'all know what a lock is, don't you? I know, you put your key in and it opens the door. I'm not talking about that. Locks. They had to build locks to go up and down. Would you like to see my wonderful demonstration of how a lock works? All right. All right, give me a minute to set this up here. Oh, no, wait, no, this doesn't go there. It's been great so far, hasn't it? Yeah. All right, no, all right. So we got a passenger packet boat coming along here, and these people have paid good money to ride on this. And just like a river comes to a cliff, the waterfall goes over. And it's mighty pretty, ain't it? Not if you're going over it in a 90-foot canal boat. So the canal will come along here, and it will reach a cliff, and it will go over like that. The people who survived are going to want their money back. So what we're going to do, we're going to build a big box at the bottom of that hill and make it watertight. Yeah, I know this isn't watertight, but just bear with me on this, see? And then we're going to fill it with water. When the canal boat comes in, it's going to sit on the water. Then, when it's in and the gates are closed, the doors are closed, we're going to let the water out. What's the boat going to do? It's going to go down. Don't say sink. That's a whole different thing. It don't sink. We go down. Then we open up that door, a canal boat goes out that way. And in the heyday of the canal, there would be a boat waiting right there to come in. They would close the doors, fill it back up with water, and it would go off, and there you go. And that, friends, is my wonderful demonstration. So, in the 1820s and 30s, a lot of rich men said, you know, we could get a lot richer if we build a canal. And they said, well, we're not actually going to build the canal. We're just going to give the money to build the canal. And so they started canal companies. And the canal companies advertised to Americans, how many of you want to work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week at a dangerous job for terrible pay? No one raised their hand. They said, where can we find fellas dumb enough, I mean desperate enough to do this work? They said, we'll go to Ireland. I can say that my entire family came over at the time. And they were dumb, but they were desperate. There was no work in Ireland, especially for the Catholic. There was no food. And so the canal company sent agents over to Ireland. And they said to the fellas, hey, how'd you like a free trip to America and a guaranteed job? And we'll offer you 30 cents a day, food, shanty, and whiskey. And the Irishman said, what was that you said about the whiskey there? Some of the contracts called for a shot of whiskey every hour they worked. And so they came over as essentially indentured servants, working for the canals. And if you'd run into an Irishman in the 1820s, asked him to sing you a song, he might have sung you this song. In 1821, nice acoustics in here. I put me corduroy breeches on. I put me corduroy breeches on to work upon the canal way, the canal way. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. That's your part to sing. Did they tell you we're going to have to sing when you came? That's because no one would have come. That's what you're saying. In 1822, I left the old wood for the new, and a curse on them what brought me through to work upon the canal way, the canal way. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. Comes up same time, every time. You'll get it. In 1823, 'twas then I met sweet Biddy McGee, and a wonderful wife she made to me, while working on the canal way, the canal way. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. In 1824, they worked me hard and worked me more. My hands and back all getting sore, still working on the canal way, the canal way. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. Very good, you're the singing historians. That's good. Well, in 1820, excuse me, what comes after 4? 5. Thanks. I did get my schooling, being an Irishman. In 1825, they worked me till more dead than alive. Worked us worse than bees in a hive. Still working on the canal way, the canal way. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. In 1820, I'm going to need 2 hands to do this one. And look at that, I still got all 10 of them. A lot of fellas don't. Well, in 1826, it's piling stones and stacking bricks. Sure, 'twas in an awful fix. Still working on the canal way, the canal way. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. By the way, I worked on the canal nigh unto 40 years. So sit back, it's a very, very long song. In 1827, sweet Biddy McGee, she went to heaven. If she left me 1 child, she left 11. It's the Catholics. All working on the canal way, the canal way. Big finish. Poor Paddy works on the canal way. Clap yourself. You did fine. Well, when construction activity was at a peak, it would have been an amazing thing to see. You'd have seen hundreds of workers wielding picks and axes and working stump pullers and following horse-drawn plows and scrapers, filling wheelbarrows by the shovelful, mixing lime for mortars. You would have seen men preparing and moving and placing stone for locks and lockhouses and culverts and waste weirs and aqueducts. And blasting was often necessary to get through, because sometimes the hill was too wide to go around, too high to go up over. And so the surveyor would say, fellas, we ain't going over it, we ain't going around it, we're going through. Start blasting. And the way it would work was a fellow would come up with a great big long spike with a kind of cloverleaf knob on it, put it up against there. Another fellow would take a huge hammer, slam it in. They would twist it, nail it in again, twist it, pull it out. Then they would fill it with a stuff called black powder that was kept in kegs like this, a very volatile substance, where even the slightest jostling could set off an explosion that would level this building. And maybe I should stop doing that. And they would light a fuse, and boom! 2 or 3 feet of rock would be blasted out, and they would do it over and over and over again until it went through. And picture this. Remember I said they got a shot of whiskey every hour they worked? Picture being the fellow with the hammer. Oh no, picture being the fellow with the spike. And on the 12th hour, he's going, I got it. I see it there. Bang! Well, once again, much of that dangerous work was done by them Irish immigrants. And one of the many nicknames they had for the Irish, one of the few I could repeat in front of ladies, was terriers. And that's what this song is about. Oh, you know, before I started, I have to tell you something else. The school kill system had a tunnel 450  50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. 450 50 feet long, completed in 1821 near Auburn, Pennsylvania. one of the problems with that one is they could have built it around, but people of Auburn wanted to be the first folks in the USA that had a tunnel dug through there. So they said, dig the tunnel anyway. Nonetheless, the Union Canal had a tunnel 729 feet long, and it's still there. You can still go through it if you want to. The Paw Paw Tunnel on the C&O Canal still is 3,118 feet long. And when you go through there, you better take your lantern, because when you get in the middle, you can't see the mule in front of your face. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. One of the many nicknames they had for the Irish was terriers. Blitz every morning at 7 o'clock. There's 20 terriers out on the block. Boss comes around and he says, be still and put your power in the cold steel drill. And drill, ye terriers, drill. Drill, ye terriers, drill. For it's work all day without sugar in your tay. Down along the canal way, and drill, ye terriers, drill. And blast and fire. Well, our new foreman is Dan McCann. Tell you true, he's a plain mean man. Last week a premature blast went off, and a mile in the air went Big Jim Groff. You know what the boss said? He said, drill, ye terriers, drill. Drill, ye terriers, drill. For it's work all day without sugar in your tay. Down along the canal way, and drill, ye terriers, drill. And blast and fire. When payday next had come around, poor Jim's pay $1 short he found. What for? Said he. Come just reply. You was docked for the time you were up in the sky. And drill, ye terriers, drill. Drill, ye terriers, drill. Work all day without sugar in your tay. Down along the canal way, and drill, ye terriers, drill. And blast and fire, and blast and fire, and blast and fire. Thank you. Well, accidents and disease took a terrible toll on the mostly Irish workers. It's been said that there is a dead Irishman for every mile of canal in this country. Well, so we got the canal built, we got to have some boats. And the first boat yards went into production before the opening of the canal. Boats were built right alongside the canal, making it real easy to get them in the water. Once they had, you get enough guys, you just push them off into the water. Boat yards sprang up along the entire length of the canal. Here's a picture of a boat yard back in the old days. They were rather small operations, turning out a few boats a year. And in the beginning, canal boats were somewhat graceful, but they pretty much developed into just great big floating boxes, for reasons I will explain as we go along. And there were many boats for different things, but it basically comes down to two kinds of boats. You had the packet boats, long, narrow, streamlined boats that pulled passengers in relative comfort, relative to a stagecoach. If you had money to pay, you could ride on a packet boat. And then there were the line boats, the freight boats. They hauled coal, they hauled stone, they hauled produce, they hauled whatever people needed to move from one place to another. Like this. And as you folks probably know, these things did not have what the people call motors. No, they were pulled by mules. And there's a picture of a mule. Y'all know what a mule is. A mule is an animal whose mother is a pretty little mare and whose father is a jackass. No, that's a description of my family. No, half and half. They would hitch them up to the harnesses, put the line on, and they would pull them on, and that's how the boats moved. Now, recently I was doing the show, and the lady said to me, that was a terrible thing to do to the mules. I said, what's that? She said, make them swim in the canal. I said, they didn't swim in the canal. They walked on the towpath. And she said, well, they couldn't walk on a towpath. I said, why not? She said, they don't have toes. Now I said, I don't mean a towpath, I mean a towpath. You know what I mean? Good, let me find her and you can explain it to her. Yeah. So, more about the boats as we go on. And we got a boat, we got to have a crew. Now, the captain owned the boat, and his family lived on the boat. We're going to talk more about that as we go along. And the children, and the older children especially, were the crew. But sometimes they would need to hire a deckhand or two, sometimes for one trip, and sometimes for several. And this is a song about a fella who is working on a farm and decides he doesn't like farm work, and the farmer ain't too crazy about it either. And so he goes and gets a job on a canal boat. And this is called boating on a bullhead. Now, a bullhead was a freight boat that had the top all the way along, way up high. And, well, I'll use this as an example. The problem with that was, as I mentioned, there were bridges that went over the roads. And the people who built the bridges didn't want to build the bridges any higher than they had to build the bridges. So they only built the bridge just so you could get under it. So it was up to somebody, usually the hoggy, to shout out, "Low bridge, duck her down!" And everybody who was on top had to lay down on the roof of the canal boat. And that was especially important on packet ships because the ladies and gentlemen liked to take strolls in the evening air on the roof. And a low bridge could cause real headaches. And so they would all lay down. Yep, even the ladies in their hoop skirts. And you know, we never did figure out how they stood up again. You know, the husband would be there like, "Do you want help?" "No, I won't look. I'm sorry, dear, I won't look." No, I won't look." Half hour later, "Do you need any help now?" And I think I have this picture, which missed. See, there's your man standing. Now, either that canal boat ain't moving, or in about 2 minutes, he's going to be swimming in the canal, if he can actually swim. Yeah, well, never mind. We'll leave it down there. Where was I? Oh, yes. So this is a song about how a fella goes from being a farmhand to a canal boat man. I was sleeping in a line barn and eating beans and hay, while the boss was keeping my stern every night and every day. So I hired out the canal and like a hoary hen at 12, driving mules and kept the ball and long the towpath smelly soil. Well, my feet raised corns and blisters while the mules were raised to stake. I took them through those twisters, plumbing to the dirty drink. I thought I'd give up farming, and the farmer thought so too. He said, hire out a driving or go paddling a canoe. I was drying on the heel path, watching boats all up and down, shivering from the first good bath I got since I left town. When the boat tied up in the basin at the wood dock for the night, well, I lost some time to hasten round the bridge to ask for a bite. They filled me up with beans and showed they lighted me a cob. They asked if I could steer a boat and they offered me a job. Next morning I was boosted to the stern cabin's roof. At the tiller there I roosted while I watched the driver hoop. Now the boat she was a bullhead decked up to the cabin's top. Many canalers now are dead who had no chance to drop. When the bowsman he forgot to yell, "Low bridge, duck her down," the boatswain steersman went to hell with a bridge string for a crown. We's loaded down with scarborough and salt, the captain's loaded too. Would not say it was all his fault, but what was a man to do? The bridge was slowly to heave away when I saw it round the bend. To the captain a word I could not say while tumbling into So we got a crew, we got a boat. Time to take a journey down the canal. And the boatmen needed to get feed and provisions for the family and mules. And hay and feed could be purchased at the various establishments across from the loading wharves, such as coal loading wharves when that was. And a lot of what the canal boats carried over the years was coal, coal, from up in the coal region down to Philadelphia to fire up the whole Industrial Revolution. That was what they did. Yeah. Well, the usual staples for a trip consisted of flour, sugar, coffee, smoked meat, and dried salt belly. Yeah. Now, the sale of alcoholic beverages was prohibited by the companies that owned the canal. So they just went to the taverns to buy their... Never mind. Well, anyway, when preparations was made, the captain would back his boat up to the coal chute, if that's what they was, loading, as I said, and they would lift up all these, fill that entire 80-foot boat up with coal, and then he would get a waybill from the canal company collector, and they would begin a trip down the canal. A normal trip on a canal took several days. For instance, the run from Cumberland to Georgetown on the C&O Canal usually took 4 to 5 18-hour days. A round trip, they said, could be made in 7 days. And the first boat that traveled the Union Canal was called the Fair Trader, and it made the trip, well, and it was on the Schuylkill Canal too, I should say. It was on both of them, because it made the trip from Philadelphia to Middletown, PA in just 5 days. It was slow, but it got you there. Now, one of the things that slowed things down was locks, because you got the lock and it goes here, and then you have to wait to get in the lock, and they fill it up and it goes there, then you go out, and then the next fella comes in, and that added, because you weren't just going that way, you were going this way some of the time. You see, now it takes about 10 minutes to go through a lock. Now, the Union Canal, for instance, had 93 lift locks in its 81-mile course. So now you take 93 times 10 minutes, 81, and divide it and they spend a lot of time in the locks, is what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. The canal had a 2.5 mile per hour current, and the speed limit was set at 4 miles an hour to keep the banks from eroding, you see. In a canal's 9-month operating period, the canal boatmen usually made about 25 trips a year. Some boats ran all night, but most of them tied up in groups of 6 or 7 between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. 4 a.m. That's much too early. Well, canal boats had colorful names. The canal boat captain owned his boat, and he could name it anything he wanted. And this model was made for me by a fella who makes models for the museum along the Schuylkill and Union Canal. And it was really painted green, yellow, and white, and it was really called the Songbird. And he chose this one when he made a model for me because he said I was the songbird of the canal. Yeah, I was impressed. Well, the family lived in a 12 by 12 foot cabin at the rear or stern of the boat. And later on, we can come here and we'll take the roof off and you can look down in there. And it had a little stove, and it had a bed for the children and a small side space for the parents, and it had a table. Now here is a picture, is it, of a canal boat wife sitting at her living room table, sitting at her dining room table, sitting at her kitchen table. She's sitting at her table. How many tables do you need? Table. You have a table. That's it. Yeah. The hired hands, or the older boys, slept here in the middle, hay and feed on one side, bunks on the other. Up at the bow, the front of the boat was the stables where the mules stayed. And so the general movement of the boat was that way, the general movement of the wind was that way, so the folks always knew where their mules were at all times. Don't worry, after a while you don't smell nothing at all. All right. Where was I? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Then the passenger packets. They carried travelers at 1.5 cents a mile, at 1.5 miles an hour. And they were the luxury liners of the canals. Passengers slept in 3-tiered bunks, which was basically a board that was chained up to the side, and at night evening they would lower it down with the chain going that way, and you'd sleep on it till much too early in the morning. They would wake you up and say, "Get up, we have to set up for breakfast." And they would take them all up, and then they would put some kegs along the length of the boat, they're right along there, and then they would put a board over it, and they would have their meal. They did that in taverns too, which is why they talk about room and board. They never said room and table, you see. So, yeah. And in the cooler weather, they would huddle around a pot-bellied stove in the middle of the cabin. And in the morning, they all washed from a common basin dipped with water from the canal. And at the end, they would dump it back into the canal. Don't worry, ladies. They always dipped on the left and dumped on the right. No, wait. I think they dipped on the right. You know, you're right. It's all the same water. Yeah. Well, while you're thinking of that, and you don't really want to, we're going to sing a song. And this is a song that many people think was originally written for the Erie Canal. And by the way, it's the Erie Canal, but whenever it's in a song, it's the Erie Canal, just because Erie don't rhyme with that much. But you can get more rhymes out of Erie. And you need more syllables. Yeah. But most people don't know this song was originally written for the Schuylkill Canal. And most people don't know that I'm a terrible liar. But my attitude is, when people who live along the Erie Canal pay me money to sing, this will be an Erie Canal song. Tonight is the Schuylkill. All we have to do is change the place it's going. Let's see, we're going to stop in Leesport. We're going to go down to Middletown. We start up in Reading. We got Reading, Leesport. Any other towns you remember? You don't want to mention them. That'll be enough. Okay. We was 40 miles from Middletown, headed ever south. What a terrible storm we had last night on the Schuylkill Canal. Oh! Everybody sing that note. Oh! Yeah, throw your arm out there like that. Oh, don't hit the lady next to you. The Schuylkill was rising and the gin was running down. And I scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Middletown. Dear boys, get to Middletown. Oh, I just thought of another rhyme I can use here tonight that has an alcoholic beverage that rhymes with a town name. Okay, just notice how what you'll see is please load it down with barley, chock full up with pride. And the captain, he looked down at me with gold darn wicked eye. Oh! That. The Schuylkill was rising, and the gin was running down. Scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Middletown. Dear boys, get to Middletown. Our cook, she was a grand old gal. She wore a ragged dress. We hoisted her upon the mast as a signal of distress. Oh! The Schuylkill was rising. We're running out of stout. No, port. No. Oh, I was going to do stout, but that doesn't rhyme with port. Darn, I thought I had a rhyme. Never mind. It was rising. We was getting low on rum. And I scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Philadelphia. That's even worse. Dear boys, get to Philadelphia. you do? Okay. Lay me on the mule bridge, with the feet up toward the bow. Let it be a fancy liquor, just a broke down scow. Oh! Yeah, don't forget that part. The C&O was rising, and the gin was running short. And I scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Leesport, dear boys. I did it, finally. Okay, get to Leesport. I ain't found one for Reading yet, though. Reading. I'm working on it. Our Nell's got the blind staggers. Nell's a mule, and the blind staggers is a mule disease. And Maud has got the heaves. Well, Maud's a mule, and you know what the heaves are. But you don't really want to think about a mule with the heaves, because it's one that image gets in your brain, and it'll be there. You won't be able to eat breakfast or lunch tomorrow. You'll be thinking, what? You're right, I should stop talking about it. Black Tom has thrown his shoe off, and the driver's got the weaves. Oh, I couldn't sneak up on you, you're there. The school kill was rising, and the gin was running down. And I scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Middletown, dear boys, get to Middletown. 2 days out of Leesport, the vessel struck ashore. We like to all been floundered on a chunk of Pennsylvania coal. Oh, the school kill was rising, is running low on rum. And I scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Philadelphia, dear boys, get to Philadelphia. And I hollered to the driver on the towpath treading dirt. He jumped aboard and stopped the leak with his old red flannel shirt. Oh! Yeah, keep going. Oh! Keep going. Keep singing that note. Keep singing. You're doing fine. Oh! The school kill was rising, and the gin was running down. And I scarcely think we'll get a drink till we get to Middletown, dear boys. Get to Middletown. Well, some boatmen took Sunday off to attend church, but most of the boatmen were not really the religious types, and they boated 7 days a week if loads were available. And most everything the canalers needed was available along the canal. And as the canal grew, little tiny towns sprang up along the canal, probably Leesport being one of them. That's probably why it's got the name port on it. It's a port on the canal, I would guess. Yeah, and it was named after a fellow named Lee, I think. Well, that's pretty obvious, ain't it? Otherwise it'd be Smith. Never mind. Well, many stores catered to the needs of the boatmen, and in addition, most lock keepers raised milk cows and some chickens and produce in their gardens, and they sold them to the canal boatmen. And some of the canal boatmen would keep a couple chickens, maybe a pig or two on the boat, so they could have eggs regularly throughout the year, and a meal or two at one time. But never mind, don't tell the pigs. Yeah. So we should talk about the duties of the women on the boat, shouldn't we? Yeah. Now I know this is going to come as a huge shock to you ladies, but the duties of the women included cooking, cleaning, child rearing, washing, and sewing. No, that ain't going to come as a big shock to you ladies. Here is a picture. Oh, wrong one. Of a canal boat wife hanging out one of her big quilts after she washed it, hanging it out on the top of the canal boat. And of course, as I said before, the aroma from the stables is coming right through there, so it's going to add a lovely aroma to that. No, it really, yeah. So they cooked on the little stove that they had in the cabin, and they often used corn cobs. The mules would eat the corn off it, and then they would burn the corn. Later on, they got coal stoves. And in a great big freight boat like this, you got plenty of fuel. Yeah. So, I said that already. Two of the most popular dishes among the boatmen were turtles caught from, soup made from turtles caught in the canal, and blackberry pie made from berries growing wild on the towpath. Canal boat women had their babies on the boat. If possible, the boat would stop at a town for the services of a midwife, but then the very next day, the trip would be resumed with the husband or the older children taking over the duties that the wife had. And women often washed, clothed, and bathed children in the moonlight after the boat was tied up for the night. And they frequently sewed or mended clothes while holding on to the stick that guided the rudder that steered the boat. Something a man could never do. They just have their arm over there, they're doing their knitting, and they're steering the boat at one time. Yeah, pretty good. There were times, many times, if the husband died, the wife inherited the boat, and she became captain of the boat. Now, the passengers on canal packets, they put up with a lot of inconvenience, slow travel, crowded conditions, and they complained loudly. But one thing they could not complain about too much was the price they paid. On the average, a 4-day trip on a canal would cost $1.85, and that would include all meals. Now, the meals on the canal boats from the galley coming out, they were filling, but they did not change much. In fact, on one old canal boat, the menu sign on just outside the cook area said "Soup of the Year." Yeah. By the way, speaking of soup, on one old canal boat had a leaky roof, and during the rainy season, one passenger finished his bowl of soup 3 different times. I got another one if you can stand it. One time there was an Englishman traveling on a canal boat, and the cook brings out the soup, and the Englishman says, "I say here, old boy, what is this?" And the cook said, "Sir, that's bean soup." And the Englishman says, "I don't care what is bean. What is it now?" And he looks in, and there's these black flecks of seasoning, but some of them seem to be moving. And he says, Sir, these particles in my soup, are they not foreign objects?" Cook looks in and goes, "Oh, those ain't foreign objects. They live right along the canal here." All right. Now, while you're thinking about that, and you don't want to, here's a song about a cook and the food on the canal. And once again, I've changed this to be the Schuylkill Canal. My mother always said, "Know on which side your bread is buttered." So I always buttered my bread on both sides, just to be sure. So I'm going to sing the Schuylkill. Later, when they, like I said, when they pay me to go to Erie to play, then I'll sing it every day. You yacht on the Schuylkill, you ride on a lake, but a trip on the Schuylkill, you bet takes the cake. Where the beefsteak is tough as a fighting dog's neck, and the cook she plays tag with the flies on the deck. Singing Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill Canal. Singing Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill Canal. By the way, I sometimes do this for the C&O Canal, and you know that's much easier to spell than your name, because it's only 3 letters, C-N-O. But Schuylkill, you got them extra H's and Y's, and I'll give you a U. That's okay. Yeah, never mind. Our cook is a daisy and dead stuck on me. Has fiery red hair and she's sweet 63. Though sunburned and freckled, a daisy you bet. And we use her at night as a headlight on deck. Apologies to any red-haired ladies. Singing Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill Canal. Singing Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill Canal. So hauling your tow line and taking your slack, take a reef in your britches and straighten your back. Through sunshine and storm, down the towpath we'll walk, and we'll touch up them mules when they kick and they balk. Everybody, singing Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill, oh Schuylkill Canal. Oh, Schuylkill, oh, Schuylkill Canal. So we should talk about children on the canal. To prevent falls into the canals, the youngest children were buckled into leather rope or harness that was tied fast to the ring bolt at the top of the cabin roof. Here's a picture. So the children could run around and around and around and around. That may seem cool, but it beats falling into the canal and drowning, you know. Now, by the age of 6, most children were put to work, starting to learn how to drive the mules. Most captains got their start on the canal as children. You know, most folks do get their start in lives as children, now that I think about it. No, but I mean, the fellas who grew up to be captains probably started out as children on the canal. So the children would be out there kind of walking along, learning how to take care of those mules. And sometimes the little children were permitted to ride the lead mule. And the canalers' children generally had little opportunity to go to school, except during the winter months when the canal froze up and the family lived in town. And they kept them to themselves quite a bit, and the canalers kind of intermarried, and it became one big, you know, you'd be on a canal, and he'd wave to another fella, and he'd go, oh, who is that? Well, that's my second cousin, brother-in-law's second cousin twice removed, or something, you know, like that, yeah. But a captain who owned his boat was no gypsy. In 1859, for example, a canal boat cost $1,200 to $1,500, which would be more like 10 times that much for you folks here today. And most captains owned a home as well. Now, so the boats had to go through a lock. And when the boat approached the lock, they wanted the lockkeeper to know they were coming. So someone on the boat, one of the boatmen, would get out a tin bugle, tin horn, and give it a blast. And the lockkeeper would hear him and come out and open the lock. If they didn't have a tin horn, they'd get whoever had the loudest voice on the boat, which is usually me, to shout, "Hey lock!" Everybody try that. Hey lock! He heard you. Yeah. During the heyday of the canals, during the daytime, they didn't have to. The lockkeeper was busy all the time with the boats going back and forth. And locking through was a procedure that was very delicate because of the fit of the boat into the lock. You see, the boatmen wanted as big a boat as they could get, but the locks were only a certain size. So after a time, it got to where the boat was so big that it just slipped in, and when they closed again, it even had to turn the rudder flat to the stern of the boat in order to keep it in. And then the water would come in and splashing down, and the boat would rise. And the boatmen had to keep the boat from bumping the sides. It was a tricky job. It would be like this. Picture this. Take your bathtub. You have one? Well, canalers didn't, so that's why I wanted to ask. Fill it with water. Doesn't have to be canal water, but it'd be more fun if it was. Then take your kitchen table, turn it upside down, and put it in the bathtub. Now, once you have it floating there, get on the table. Try to keep it from bumping into the sides. And that's what it would be like. I thought I had a picture. Oh, it's on the last page. That's what it would be like. Here we go. There you go. With the water coming down into the canal lock and making sure it didn't bump up there. So, steering was an art. They were keelless, cumbersome boats, and it was hard to get them off the edge. So, got another song for you. Now I know when you were coming here today, and you heard that there was a fella going to sing songs. I bet you said, gee, I can't wait. I sure hope he sings a song where we all get to sing the words, "The Frogs." How many of you were thinking about that? Thank you. I appreciate that. So, this is a song about life on the old canal. It's called life on the old canal. Because it's about, never mind. And at one point in the song, I'm going to sing the frogs, and then you're going to sing the frogs, and then I'm going to sing the frogs, and then you're going to sing the frogs, and then I'm going to sing the frogs, and you ain't going to sing the frogs until the next time I sing the frogs. You got that? You'll be fine. Okay. A life on the old canal, a home in its muddy deep, where through summer, spring, or fall, the frogs division do keep. Like a fish on the hook I pine, on this dull, unchanging shore. Oh, give me the packet line, and the canal's dull, muddy roar. A life in the old canal, a home in its muddy deep, where through summer, spring, or fall, the frogs division do keep. The frogs, the frogs division do keep. The frogs, the frogs division do keep. You're good. You've sung this before? Once more on the deck I stand, my own swift gliding craft. The mules trot off the land, and the boat falls close abaft. We shoot through the turbid foam, like a bullfrog in a squall. And like the frogs our home, we'll find on the muddy canal. A life in the old canal, a home in its muddy deep, where through summer, spring, or fall, the frogs division do keep. The frogs, the frogs division do keep. The frogs, the frogs division do keep. The sun is no longer in view, the clouds have begun to frown, but with a bumper or two, we'll say let the storm come down, and the song will sing one and all, while the storm around us pelts. A life on the old canal, no, we don't want nothing else. E-L-T-S, else, it rhymes with pelts. A life on the old canal, a home in its muddy deep, where through summer, spring, or fall, the frogs division do keep. The frogs, the frogs division do keep. The frogs, the frogs divisions do. Church ending. Keep. There we go. All right. Yeah, I could be here all night. Well, we also need to talk about the mules. The mules were some of the most important members of the canal family. If you didn't have the mules, the canal boats didn't go nowhere. New mules were purchased when they were about 2.5 years old, and they were called greenies. And they were broken in by hitching them to a log, and they were trained by pulling a log. Now, a mule is a fairly smart animal, and if you hitch him to a log and say pull, he's going to sit down. Wouldn't you? If I hitched you to a log? Yeah, well, the way they fixed that was they put the sit-downer and hitched 2 trained mules on either side. And then they go, get up, boys! And the 3 mules would take off with the sit-downer like this. And then after a while, he'd get up and realize, oh, this isn't hard. And then he would get some kind of treats out of it, too, and get fed well. And he's like, whoa, this is a pretty good deal. Yeah. So, and mules lasted to about 15 years before they became too old and infirm to be of any value. Pretty much like me. Too old and infirm to be of any value. Yeah. And good experienced mules did not even require a driver. They slacked off automatically when a boatman was snubbing a boat into a lock. And they took off on the cue of the steersman's whistle. And when they came to a tunnel that was narrow, many times the tunnels did not have a towpath. So the boatmen had to take it through by running poles along there, or by laying down and putting their feet on the wall of the tunnel and moving it through that way. So they would say to the mules, get up, boys. And there was always a path up around the hill for the mules. And the trained mules would go up, and they would get down there, and they'd be waiting and saying, "What took you so long?" Yeah. So, let me see. Oh, yeah. Mules could shy, however. They were pretty good. They moved along quite nicely with a little bit of cursing and a little bit of praise. Sometimes they would shy when snakes crossed the towpath or something like that. And mules were changed when the boat was in a lock. And a gangplank was put out, and the mule would come down. Let me see, I think I got a picture of that one somewhere here. Well, maybe I didn't find that one today. Well, I'll show it to you later if I find it. Well, although you can kind of picture a mule walking down a gangplank, and it's not like you have to have a picture there, you know. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you though? Oh, mules get a reputation of being stubborn. That comes from the father jackass. But they were really only stubborn when they were mistreated. And the mules were very rarely mistreated because they were an important member of the family. And the boatmen took care of them. And they took pride in their good mules. Now, there was only one towpath. And it's not really a two-lane road. So you'd have the upstream mules going and the downstream mules going. And they were so close, they got to know each other better than the canal boatmen. You know, the mules would pass, "Hey, Fred, how you doing? How's the family?" Well, they didn't have family. Never mind. So then you say, well, wait a minute. How did the boats go by since they had the lines running in? Because one boat would be going this way, the other boat would be coming this way. Well, the way it worked was the upstream barge had the right of way. So the downstream barge had to drop its lines and let them sink in the water so the upstream barge could pass over. Now, lines would only sink if they're wet. So when you were going downstream, and you had the easier job of it, you see, because you're going downstream, the hoggy, which was a word for the mule tender, had to keep his lines wet all the time so they could go up and down. And so I have one more song for you. Well, actually, I have two more songs for you, but it's two songs in one. And sometimes people say to me, "Oh, I know two canal boat songs," and they name these two parts of the song. Yeah, well, that's nice, but it's just one. Never mind. The first one is about how much the hoggy loves his mule. The second part of the song is about the problem of low bridges, which we already talked about before. So I don't need to talk about this. And this is another one of them songs that some people thought was originally written for the Erie Canal. But in fact, it was originally written for the Schuylkill Canal. At least tonight it is. Well, I've got an old mule and her name is Sal, 15 miles on the Schuylkill Canal. I played so many canals, I sometimes mess up and throw in another one, but I'll try here. She's a good old worker and a good old pal, 15 miles on the Schuylkill Canal. We've hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay. And we know every inch of the way from Leesport to Middletown. Low Bridge, everybody down, Low Bridge, for we're coming to a town. And you'll always know your neighbor, and you'll always know your pal if you ever navigated on the Schuylkill Canal. We'd better look around for a job, old pal, 15 years on the Schuylkill Canal. You bet your life I wouldn't part with Sal, 15 miles on the Schuylkill Canal. Giddy up there, gal, we passed that lock. We'll make the next for 6 o'clock. One more trip and then go down, right back down to Middletown. Low Bridge, everybody down, Low Bridge, you got the finest mule in town. Once a man named Mike McGinney tried to put it over Sal, now he's is waiting at the bottom of the Schuylkill Canal. Oh, where would I be if I lost my pal? 15 miles on the Schuylkill Canal. You'll never see a mule as good as Sal. 15 miles on the Schuylkill Canal. A friend of mine once got her sore. Now he's got a broken jaw. That may have rhymed in 1824, I don't know. She let go with her iron toe, kicked him into Ohio. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, we got the finest mule in town. And if you're looking for trouble, better stay away from Sal. She's the only fighting donkey on the Schuylkill Canal. And I don't have to call when I want my Sal. 15 years on the Schuylkill Canal. She trots from her stall like a good old gal. 15 years on the Schuylkill Canal. I eat my meals with Sal each day. I eat beef and she eats hay. She ain't so slow if you want to know. Way much smarter than most folks I know. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, where we're coming to a town. And you'll always know your neighbor, and you always know your pal if you ever navigated on the Schuylkill Canal. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out. And a round of applause for everyone who sang along. And a round of applause for everyone who laughed at the jokes. I know that was the hard part. All right. And if you want to come up and see the pictures, I'll move some stuff around so you can. And, yeah.
Were your ancestors on canal people?
Were
your ancestors on the canal?
my ancestors?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. No. Real quick, I do a series of shows, songs and stories of different historic periods. And I started out like 30 years ago. My family was in Harper's Ferry, and we were in an old tavern, and I said, whoa, this would be a good place for a guy in period costume singing Civil War songs and telling stories. And my kids all say, well, that'd be you, Dad. You're always telling us. So I put together songs and stories of the Civil War. And then about a year after that, I was up at a national park for railroads talking to park rangers about my show. And they said, you should do a railroad show. I was like, oh, yeah, there's all this. And then about a year later, I got a call from a Canal Historic Society. And they said, well, we hear you do historic music shows. And I said, well, yeah, but you don't want a railroad show because the canal people hate the railroads, you know. They said, do you do a canal show? I said, how long have I got? And then I have gone on to do other topics and holiday ones. But this is one of my favorites because the songs are so much fun. And I've always been fascinated by canal life. I grew up in Ohio, so there was, near where the Ohio Canal was. So I was always kind of into canals. And then to be able to become an old canal boatman and just sit on the boat and sing to you folks is, yeah. By the way, the mules are outside. I didn't bring them in. They're just grazing. Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know that I had any. But you folks may have. Do you know any? If you grew up in Leesport, some of maybe even and you were telling me you have the lockkeeper's house.
Yes, at least.
Yeah, and there's an example of. Does yours look a little bit like that?
A little bit.
Okay. That one I think is on the C&O, but that's a pretty good example of a lockkeeper's house. And I didn't really get into that, but they were paid by the canal boat company, the canal company, and they got a salary and a rent-free house and an acre of land, and And their job, of course, was to be ready, as we would say nowadays, 24/7. Whenever a boatman wanted to come through, he had to be out there doing it. And they also were in charge of the canal from their lock downstream to the next, making sure it was always clear of debris and passable and everything. So that was, did I get that right?
You did.
All right.
And can I mention, on the back table, there are some brochures. If you haven't been to the Leesport Lock House, please grab a brochure. We have the calendar of events. We're open the first Saturday of every month from 10 to 2.
And is there any sign of the canal around the house at all, or still?
We
Yeah?
have half of the lock wall.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
And from the lock towards the back of the property, the stones have been uncovered, so you can see how far,
Okay.
where the water was.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to go there myself
Please.
sometime. Yeah. All right.
I was fortunate enough to know my great-grandmother. She passed away in the 80s at 100. She was 102 years old, and she was raised on a canal boat.
Oh, we're on a canal boat. Ah, so cool. Yeah. Maybe like 10 years ago or so, I met a guy, probably in his 90s, who remembered living along the canal when the boat still came. And he told me what he did when, as a boy, one of those things that I'm sure he never told his mother. What the kids would do, they would dare each other. As the boat came by, they would dive in, swim underneath the boat. Now, if you don't dive low enough, you're going to hit the boat. And it's not like there's gravel cover. It's muck. So if you went too low, you could, well, he survived, but I'm sure that's something he never told his mother. But that's really cool that you have. Yeah. She was a canal boat wife then.
No, she was a farmer's wife.
She was a farmer's wife.
She was raised on the boat, but she was a farmer's wife.
Oh, okay. So when she grew up, she decided she wanted to be on dry land.
Yes.
In one place. Yeah.
She lived to be 102.
Yeah. Because, they took their home with them, but they were always on the move. 185 miles, like on the C&O, up and back, and yeah. Cool.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. And thanks for
I
staying.
can tell these people, there's a can in the back that they can put some money in.
Say again?
There's a can in the back, well, you don't have to put money in, but there's a can in the back for money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.